little lubricated.
Absolutely, we got to get lubricated. Hey, you guys! The guests are all here right now. So, Chris Sawyer here, the Varietal Show. I am here with a very wonderful friend of mine from a long time ago, Earl Jones, and this is a place called Abacela. We are in Roseburg, Oregon. We are in the middle, not the middle, we're on the lower side of the state. They usually call it the flyover zone because everyone just flies to Portland and forgets about this area. I drive because I want to see this man. And it's one of the wonderful trips through Oregon that you get. I mean, we're not that far from, just down the hill from us here is some of the great redwoods and great routes to the coast. The road to actually the Oregon Caves is out there, and that's an amazing place if you know those caves.
Man. And then Crater Lake is
Crater Lake's right behind us. So we've got some stuff going on here, but we're not talking about that necessarily today. What we're talking about is this man's passion for Spanish grapes and how he became the man who really started working with Tempranillo and also one of the first to start working with Albarino and some other grape varieties that are really amazing. So tell us a little bit about what the heck made you think this is going to work here, and what got you into Spanish grape varieties?
Well, we got to go back quite a ways. When I was a resident physician, I was in San Francisco at UCF Medical Center.
Love that place.
I lived down in the Marina area in a little place, and I was not far from a little deli, a wonderful little deli down there. And I used to go in, and a little Italian guy owned it, and he always had a barrel of wines that he would discount.
Okay.
And sometimes they were, the ones I can remember best were the Riojas that had the brass string-like wire. You'd remember that because that's the only one that does it. Well, and I tasted that, and it was good. And the price was really good.
Yeah.
And California cabs were costing $2.50 a bottle. And I could get this stuff for $1.
Wow, what a deal.
So I began to cultivate my interest in Spanish wines there, and then some years, I went to Europe a lot in my research work. Ended up in Spain a lot, and I just love the culture, I love the wines, and I was just amazed that no one in America was producing Tempranillo. And so I said, why? There's got to be some reason. I found out they had tried in California, but just never worked well. It'd been used as a filler for jug wine.
Right.
That was about it. So I said, there must be a secret, and I tried to find that secret, decided it was climate, found an American homoclimate to that climate, planted it, worked.
Yeah, it worked. Here we are, in a special area. This is like getting out of the realm because you were down in California. You came up here, but also there was that story that I wrote about you a long time ago. We can't figure out if it was the one that I wrote for Wine Business Monthly or if it was for Wines and Vines, but it probably was the Wines and Vines one. There was some research that I did, and I know that Earl did this too, and it was about Tempranillo and its likelihood of success in America. And the fact is that UC Davis said and blacklisted it not once but twice that it's never going to work here, and you did it anyways. What was it about this soil and where we're at that makes it so interesting, and why were you willing to take the risk?
Well, I'm a risk taker. I've been doing that all my life. I had 29 years in medical research, and I understood the scientific side of things.
Yeah.
And I don't think the soil has a great deal to do with fine wine, particularly Tempranillo. In Rioja, they have 3 or 4 major soil types, and you can go drink the wines from the 3 soils or so, and they're all good.
Yep.
But you can go to find very, very similar soils outside of Rioja, and the wine's not good.
Yep.
So that's what led me to the climate. And then when Ribera del Duero began to become famous, they had the same climate as Rioja.
Yeah.
La Mancha, too long of a climate, much like California.
Yeah, they can grow a lot of things in La Mancha. I mean, actually, I've had great Sauvignon Blanc when I've been there, and it's amazing. It's one of the only areas where you can grow Sauvignon Blanc in Spain, and I just think that there's something special here. We're kind of looking at it's funny because you had to show me the earthquake zone here. So we are on a fault line, and there's all this uplifted kinds of rock, and then there's stuff that went down, and so this is a mixture out here right behind us.
Yeah, we have tried. I'm too much of an experimentalist. If I were a better businessman, I would have just planted big squares. But like we plant little triangles and make little rows that have just 10 vines in them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that's where the soil and that's where the climate is like that. You move over here and it changes.
Wow.
We have 25 weather stations out here.
Wow, amazing. And how many acres do you have planted right now?
76.
And you told me that you have more, but your wife would not be in approval of if you continued on.
And she looks the other way on that.
Yeah. Okay. So, but we're successful here as we speak. So, speaking of success here, we got Albarino. This is a great white grape. It's supposedly laced or tracked back to a little bit of Riesling somewhere in its family. But it's its own grape variety, and it really is best known from the Rías Baixas, which is in the northern part of Spain on the Atlantic, and it's actually right there before Portugal. And actually, one time I was there, and the guy says, "Okay, well, here we are at his castle, and it says on our itinerary that we're having lunch there." And he said, "Oh, let's jump in the van. We're going to go across the river into Portugal for dinner or for lunch." And I was like, "What?" Sure enough, yeah, that's what we did. But that's how close it is.
Just across the Rio Minho.
Yeah, yep, right there. So it is a very warm area, considering, I mean, warm as far as warm air Atlantic, that's much more like it. Here in California, we got this thing called the Atlantic Ocean, or the Pacific Ocean, and that's not necessarily warm.
The Atlantic is over there is 13 to 15 degrees warmer.
Yeah.
As the breezes come ashore, so it never drops below that.
Yeah.
But it hardly gets hot because it rains all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
What a climate.
And the Rías Baixas is in reference to the little channels of water that kind of go into the ocean right there. So it's a great one. It likes a little bit of water. It likes kind of an influence of maritime influence. And you have that coming through these corridors.
We have a little that blows in the afternoons from the northwest.
Yeah.
Just a little.
And just so you know, too, we're in Umpqua Valley. So the Umpqua River is right near us. And it's a really great river. It's beautiful, especially right down there. If anyone knows about the wildlife safari of Oregon, it's actually just kind of on the other side of you just kind of drive up the hill right from the Umpqua River, and then you go over the bridge. It's super cute. Bring your kids, please, and then come here and buy a bunch of wine, right? You've fallen in love with this. This wasn't planted originally, though.
No,
Albarino.
I planted most everything in 2005, and then I planted this in 2000. I was impressed by Michael Havens' Albarino.
I love Michael Havens.
He bottled one the year before we did. We only had a half acre of Albarino because I didn't think it would work.
Oh boy. And here we are, sipping on it and enjoying it.
20 years later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Albarino, it's a great one for seafood. When we were there, and I did a story I think it was for Somm Journal, a tasting panel on Albarino, and the whole time we were there, we just ate seafood for about a whole entire week. Those razor clams and the big oysters, and just yellowfin fish, and just amazing. But you get ceviche just with bread and cheeses and everything. And it's just like sitting here sipping with you. So it's pretty good.
It's some of the best seafood on earth.
It really is.
Yeah.
So
fabulous.
Amazing thing. So let's go into the reds now. So put this by side, and we will finish this, of course. Gavin is with us. Gavin, he's off in the distance right there. He's the GM. Gavin, what's in our first glass?
So you've got the Tempranillo Fiesta.
Okay, so I've got the Tempranillo Fiesta. So here we go into exactly what's going on here with the special selections of Tempranillo. And this is the Fiesta right here. Mm-hmm. Fresh, fruity. And then we're going to go into the more layered and refined style, which is a more barrel select. And then we're going to go into the Reserve, which is a common word in Oregon. Don't get me wrong. I just did so much on the Pinot Noirs. Reserve is cool up here. I think Reserve in California got really mistaken by a lot of inexpensive wines that called themselves Reserve. That meant they put kind of staves in there, like tea dipping, and it threw everything off. The Paramur.
Yeah,
Paramur? Okay. Murmur.
My other
rich and complex. So let's go into the Fiesta. Let's have a little Fiesta right now, Earl. So we got beautiful color. It's a little light crimson, really nice on the nose. What makes Albarino so interesting to you and is really clear? You just like its fruity flavor and it's nice cutting acidity and everything. What got you really into going, you know what, I like this that much that I'm going to actually grow some, and I'm actually going to make some extra.
What I like is the balance that Tempranillo has, and you'll see it through the Fiesta to the Paramore, between tannins and fruit. You can Tempranillo when you bring it in on the crush pad is more tannic than Cabernet.
Yep.
Oh, it is just a brute, and so it depends on how much taming you do to the tannins as to what you want to make. And so with this wine, we tame the tannins by pumping over.
Yep. Wow.
And so it captures a lot of the fruit essence, and we can get this to market quicker.
Yep.
We don't have to age it very long, as opposed to the Paramore, which is a big wine. We don't release that until it's 6 years old.
No. Well, it smells really pretty on the nose. I mean, it's got some wildflower kind of notes to it, violets, and it's got a little rustic note to it too. It's almost like we found that plum tree in an old deserted kind of house that was somewhere out here near Roseburg, and we found it, and this plum tree is putting it out. And we found it, and we're eating for a little while, and it's pretty good.
A little bit of cherry in there too.
No prunes, prunes free.
As you move across these wines, you're going to see the savory element that Tempranillo always brings show up more, and maybe a little. I think you can taste it.
I think it goes back to a point that you made there just a minute ago about the tannins. Now, this says fruity and fresh, and it is fresh and fruity, but it does have that little grip on the back end.
It does.
And so it's kind of like it's hard to compare this to like Pinot Noir or Gamay or some things like that are just fresh and fruity, because they just don't have many tannins. And this one is very balanced, and it's got like a little white pepper line going down the back end of it too, with all this red fruit, and it's got this little spice in there, and it makes me want like paella right now with this. And I think I'd be okay. I think I really would be okay with paella in this.
That's why we call it Fiesta.
Exactly, Fiesta, indeed.
You can simply have a party with it.
Party inside your mouth, party inside the nose, party all over the place, you guys. Party pairings. So moving on to our second one, this is the more barrel select here. So once again, we'll go back to our little special chart here. This is the barrel select. There's Sawyer. Barrel select right there, and that's kind of where we're at. Layered and refined.
Well, I should make a comment here. With the Fiesta, this features American oak. The dominant aromatic in there is in that American oak category.
Hang on one second. See, you guys, this is a real vineyard. There's real workers out there. This is not just a backdrop here. That actually exists. Okay, now we can continue.
So these barrels, this has no American oak. This is all French, and you can pick that up immediately. This was the first category of these four wines that we made here. We started making this in 97, and then 98 was the first American Tempranillo to best the Spanish in a heads-up competition.
That's fantastic. This is also one of your anniversaries, isn't it? This past year has been
our 25th.
25th year anniversary. Quarter century of working with this grape. Even more than that, because that's when you kind of started it, but you had already purchased the property, and you began developing these. I mean, how have these vines matured? I mean, what have you gotten out of them that you didn't think you were going to get?
More reserves and more Paramores.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have some sweet spots out there that you really like, and you're like, oh, this is going to give me the big boy. This one's going to give me the fruit, and this one's going to be hard to tame, but we've got ways of doing that.
But those sweet spots don't produce it every year. It's only when the climate is perfect for those blocks.
Hashtag vintage matters, you guys.
Oh, it really does.
Yeah.
Like the Paramore Well, I should give you our definition of a reserve. A reserve is only made from a certain block. We keep it to that soil type or that area of the vineyard, and our definition is it can't be more than 10% of our total production.
Oh, okay.
So we don't go running up, bottling lots and lots of reserve.
Right.
We bottle what's really fine quality.
Yep. That's great. Well, I love this one too, and actually what really gets me on this one is that acidity. It's really showy acidity. I mean, this is not just a great wine that's meant for drinking right now, but it's got some life in it. It's got a lot of charge in it. How about, that's a good question for you, putting some of these wines away. I mean, what have you found, as far as their ability to age?
They age very, very well. The key to any wine's ageability is the amount of tannin and the amount of acid that's in there, and that's a delicate balance.
Yep.
And that's why it fluctuates with vintage to vintage.
Yep.
And when it's just right, it gets the kiss of approval and ages for a long, long time.
That's amazing. So here we go into reserve, one of your great. This is the best blocks, the best. The stuff that you're really
just a best block.
A best block, right? But can that change? Can that?
Oh, that does change.
Oh, that does change. Okay, here we go. And once again, vintage matters. But is there been something like where you're kind of seeing like part of the hill likes it, or you're kind of moving around a little bit more?
Can we get a hold of that bottle over there?
Yeah,
sure. Reserve.
Yeah, that's good.
I believe he's going to get it.
Okay. Yeah. I got it. This is why Gavin is the man.
Now look what it says down here.
Okay, this says Abacela 2016 Tempranillo Reserve Southeast Block.
That comes from
that block down there.
Way down there in the corner of that vineyard. And traditionally that is the most likely to produce a fine wine. But it doesn't always come from it.
Right. Just want to hug it. Sorry. Okay. This is tasting great right now. The kind of dark cherry in this is amazing, and it's got the kind of the wild berry kind of thing. And what's interesting is as we go down that kind of area there, we're getting close to the water, so that makes sense. So where does wild berries like to grow? Oh, really near water. So it seems like a good area down there too. And correct me if I'm wrong. That it's kind of like when you go on a great hike and you find these kinds of areas where you're really hot and then you want to stop for a second, where the air comes through the wooded areas and it's a little bit cooler. Am I crazy there?
Yes.
Okay, good. I got a crazy award.
No, I think the soil down there has more sand in it.
Okay.
That whole sector of that vineyard, it's a clay
Sandy
loam.
soil. Okay.
It's a sandy clay loam, and as it moves to a greater sandy component in that area, that's what I associate with this wine.
Okay. That makes sense.
Now we have some very sandy, rocky soils over here, but they rarely produce the same dimensions of a wine.
Well, then I should ask you the question, because we're looking downwards down there. That's kind of as you drive up towards the winery. It's probably in the corner right over there as you're driving on the little road, Looking Glass.
Looking Glass. Yes.
Looking Glass Road. But what is the difference between that low block down there to the highest point? What's your elevation?
It's 300 feet.
About 300 feet in difference. Wow. Yeah. It's a big hill behind us right here, but we would let you see it, but that means you wouldn't want to come, and you have to come. So we can't do that. So yeah, amazing. So you and Hilda got to come together with this. I mean, moving here was that kind of crazy? Moving to Oregon and getting used to the Roseburg situation. Did you go down to Ashland a lot? Just to have fun.
We did. Yeah. Well,
Shakespeare
actually, our son Greg was based at Southern Oregon University. He came out here. Let's see, 5 years after we bought the property.
Okay. Well,
he was in school at the University of Virginia working on atmospheric science.
Wow.
And doing his thesis in Bordeaux.
Wow.
He was.
He wasn't the one that named the atmospheric river, is he? Because that's really still tripping me out. It's the atmospheric rivers that we never knew anything about, and now they seem to happen all the time. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wouldn't comment.
Well, it's I want to say this for everyone too. I mean, Earl is pretty awesome, and Hilda is pretty awesome, but Greg, he's pretty good too. This man knows his science and he knows his climate very well, and he is actually an amazing. He's kind of a priceless guy to the wine industry, and everyone that wants to know about climates and climate change and climate circumstances and cycles and everything. They know this man, and Greg is the real deal. I've seen him speak many times, but he's the real deal.
Well, he's the guy behind these 25 temperature sensors we have out in our vineyards, one every 2.5 acres roughly. And what they enable us to do is we know the climate history, the weather history accumulated into a climate history of a block. And we're always replanting because I didn't get everything right the first time. So when we replant, we look at the history of those blocks and match the climate site.
Boom, done. Moving on. Yeah. Speaking of which, let's go into this big boy, the big, rich, and complex one. What did you say the name meant?
Other Love.
The Other Love, besides Hilda, of course.
Yeah. Well, and how it came to have that name is we didn't make a Paramore until we'd been here 10 years. Mm-hmm. So I worked on it a lot. I kept trying to, blend these reserves and, do something to make it special. And I finally realized that what it takes is a great vintage. Mm-hmm. So we made, I think, 4 Paramores since our first one.
Wow.
And it's exceptional vintages that do this.
And which vintage is this?
This one's a 2013.
13,
yeah. 13, great. A vintage that was very well known in California too. There was just a movie that came out called The Perfect Vintage, and I'm in it. It's a documentary about 2013 in Napa Valley. So we should have just made it with you up here. I don't know. Well, maybe we can do it the next great vintage. We'll do it with him. Yeah. So, this to me, reminds me of going back to the Rioja and to those, not just the Reserva or Grand Reserva, but sometimes you have these ones that are like proprietary wines. They have special names, but they are the masterful ones that you can put them away or you can really savor them, when they're young. But you have to really have the food that will complement them. What would you say is your thing right now, where it's at? Mm. What do you need with this right now?
I'd like about 1.5 inch ribeye steak, grilled, kind of a Ruth's Chris style grilling. Okay. Sprinkled with just a little bit of crumbly blue cheese, and not much salt, just that. Yeah.
I'm sold on that. Yeah, I think that's a pretty darn good idea. What I love about it is there's a sexy side to this. There's a seductive, sexy side. It's the smooth tannins. I mean, they're big. Don't get me wrong. This is not a small wine, but it's how it coats the mouth and how it is approachable when young. But it's where it will go. It's stacked. Their flavors stacked on top of each other, and I think this is more the wild berry kind of thing. There's almost like a black fig effect in here too.
Yes, there is.
And it makes me want pork too and things like that, where you can take it and go to different levels with it. If you can put some char on that pork and put some figs with it and just get crazy. But I think your idea about the blue cheese with the steak is absolute genius. But I just think that the way that this wine is set up for success, I mean, it's there already, but you can put this away for quite a while.
We have underestimated the ageability of our wine since we started, because we didn't know. With this one, we didn't put a date on there, but we started out. We thought our barrel select would probably be plateaued at 6 years and maybe over the hill. how about doubling that?
Yeah, okay.
I just didn't understand.
Yeah, I pulled out an old bottle of yours. I think it was an '09 of just the regular kind of the barrel select or like when you. I don't even think you had this many that you were designating it.
No, well, we hadn't released our first one then.
Yeah, so
it would Paramore.
So this, I think it was just the regular one, and it was tasting beautiful. We had that, I believe, with some lamb, and it was fantastic. I like some cardamom on lamb, and it just had everything. And if you really know the Rioja too, a strange thing that they have there is they eat a lot of goat. Goat is like the big thing there. They don't, we don't eat that much goat here. You go down to Jamaica, places like that, you eat goat, but it just is that kind of gamey meat. It can handle that too. I might put that a little bit more with the reserve or the barrel select, whereas this one just has, or the kind of the higher end one has so much more finesse to it. There's, it's got this kind of velvet texture, but it's big.
The way we make the Paramore, I talked about the reserve being a single block.
Yeah.
The Paramore is never a single block.
Yeah.
It's the best barrels from the very best blocks.
Yeah. What a selection.
And so it does this.
The best of the best inside the glass.
Yeah.
Inside the bottle, and then inside your glass.
It really meshes, yeah.
Well,
the other thing that I really
amazing.
enjoy, if I hadn't picked a ribeye, I would have picked the Spanish version of lamb chops, the chuletitas. The little guys that are about lollipops.
Lollipop.
Delicious.
Yeah. What does Abacela mean?
To plant a grapevine.
This man did it. He went crazy. Got a lot of grapevines here and amazing wines that he backs up his words with, and he took the risk, and it's worth it. I'll tell you that, you guys. And if you like Spanish wines and you want to taste a version of America, and you make other wines, you're getting into Syrah and Grenache and everything. He is experimenting on this vineyard, and that experimentation will not stop anytime soon.
Too much fun.
He's having fun. But look at this man, and it's just fun to sit down with you, Earl, and to have a few sips and just to catch up and to let people know about you, and I think that this is, Tempranillo, Albarino, those kinds of grapes, and thinking about Spain, but being here in Oregon. It's special, and I hope you guys will continue to follow this. You can go to abacela.com and find out more about this man and his family, and why he did this, and the great effects of what he did. So thanks for joining us on the Varietal Show, and once again, Tempranillo, it's pretty awesome, you guys, and hope you have fun, and come visit this man and the family, and Gavin too, up here in Oregon. This is Roseburg, and we're just right up the road from Ashland and on your way to Eugene and Portland. Great area, and please remember that Oregon makes a lot of great wines, and this is a great example of one that you won't find just anywhere. You got to come to Oregon or buy it online from this man.
Thanks, Chris.
You got it. Definitely. Cheers. Absolutely. Cheers.